And here's another hit, baby Bonds.
How's the weather in California?
Can't complain. Can't complain. Nice and about 75 right now. It'll get as high as about 85 today, but
Okay.
no complaints here.
You know, in Chicago, we got 2 seasons, really hot and really cold, man.
Yes, I'm very aware, having played in Milwaukee and opened up there a few times. It can be either really cold or really hot for sure.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna get this thing started. I see everybody's joining and everything, but I want to be conscious of your time. I know, Fox Sports has you on a strict schedule and everything, but everybody's joining. I'm Coach E from Chicago, Illinois. Welcome to The Recess. The Recess is designed to bring awareness around urban baseball, urban softball, and just urban sports, period. Tony Gwynn Jr. is my guest. I'm going to let him tell you guys, a little bit about himself. I don't want to ruin his great story. So, TG, can you tell my audience a little bit about your unique baseball journey?
Yeah. I've been blessed in this game of baseball. We don't get to pick our parents, but I won the lottery on that one. My dad played 20 years for San Diego Padres. I grew up in the locker room, and I always look at it. I kind of had 2 educations. I had my school education, and then I had my baseball education that I got a chance to experience that most people don't, and I'm very aware of that. I then got a chance to play collegiately at San Diego State, 1 year under my father, which was some of the best times of my life. Because he played 20 years at the big league level. We didn't get a chance to spend that kind of time together. But when he was the coach at San Diego State, it's probably the most time we got to spend in a calendar year together. So I always cherish that time. I was blessed enough to be drafted out of high school, 33rd round, and then again out of college in the 2nd round. So I boosted my stock enough to go to the next level. And then I spent about 2.5 years in the minor leagues, Milwaukee's organization, and I made my big league debut in 06 and was kind of back and forth until 09, and then made it all the way to my last year of 2015.
Dope. So out of your experience and career, what's your most memorable baseball moment?
Oh, wow. The moment that I think of a lot is that's my 2nd year in the big leagues. We're making our first push to finish at 500, and we were in a playoff run. We had just got eliminated, and I come up in a situation. We're playing the Padres, has it be, and Trevor Hoffman's in to close the game out. They're trying to clinch the National League West to head to the playoffs, and they, like I said, they had just eliminated us the night before, and I get a pinch hit chance in the bottom of the 9th off of Trevor Hoffman. I end up getting a game-tying triple to send that into extra innings. And
nice.
They would end up getting eliminated in a 1-game playoff. So it was the irony was all there, being that it was an organization that I pretty much grew in, and I just completely ended their playoff chances.
Shout out to Trevor Hoffman, one of the greatest closers of all time. I know that just make you feel great. So I know you mentioned that felt really good that you got the hit off the Padres and Trevor Hoffman. So can you talk to me a little bit about the impact of your father in your life and the legacy he had for baseball players across the globe?
Yeah, well, for me personally, it was major. I mean, my dad did a good job of separating the two, right? He was the earliest guy to show up to the park, and he was the latest guy to leave. But once he got home, he was just dad. He was no longer Tony Gwynn, the player. So, and I think the other thing I benefited from is he recognized that, us having his son having the same name as him, and also pursuing the same sport that he's pursuing, that there would be some hurdles that I would have to get over. And I think because he recognized that, he never pushed baseball on me.
Nice.
He brought me around it. He exposed me to it, but never once did he ever pressure me, at least in the game of baseball. He was much harder on me in basketball, but baseball, he was kind of hands off. And I think he understood that just the norm is, if you're sharing the same name, playing the same sport, the expectation is that you're going to be as good. And I think he recognized that and allowed me to develop a love for the game on my own. And
Nice.
baseball has so much failure in it. If you don't
Jesus.
love, yeah, if you don't love it yourself, it's not something that will last.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because I know a couple of dads are going to actually see this, when we put it on YouTube and, put it out there on the different social media networks and everything. So I'm glad that you said that he didn't pressure you in the game of baseball. It's already hard, right? You get up there 10 at-bats and everybody knows the saying, you get 3 hits, you're a GOAT, you're great. But
right.
nuance and the kind of in-between thing that, I pick up on from a lot of pro guys like yourself, like, it's just the process, man. That's the grind in the process. I only play college baseball, and I'm reluctant enough to come back and coach and actually know what I'm doing.
Right.
But the process is where you go through the most failures, and then actually being able to have small success in the games. That's the mental strain a lot of young players they have no clue or idea about.
Yeah, it couldn't have been said better. I think when you're making outs, right, it seems like it's a never-ending saga. Like you're making, and that one hit though is like the thing that keeps bringing you back. And so I think as you get older and you go to higher levels, that your success rate drops a little bit. You go from little league hitting 500, 600, then you get to high school, it's about 400, and you get to the collegiate level is high 3. It gets harder the higher you go up. So if you can't deal with it, the failure part, chances are baseball might not be the sport for you.
So I'm kind of going to switch gears, right? So I just read a report saying that only 7.7% of Major League Baseball players are African-American, right? I know there is no one-stop shop to find a solution. I know there's no one answer, but in your opinion, what are some things that Major League Baseball can do to attract more African-American baseball players?
It's a very good question. And I think baseball has to realize, baseball is usually slow to catch up to the norms. They're usually last to come about. And I would say the first thing they have to do is recognize that the other major sports around baseball are no longer playing from a disadvantage, right? Because when baseball had its highest black percentage in terms of players in the league, it was in the 70s and the 80s, right? Basketball wasn't nearly as popular. NFL wasn't nearly as popular. Baseball was looked at as the sport you wanted your kids to play. Transition now to 2020, that is no longer the case. The NBA is playing from a different level now. They have the ability to reach globally. NFL in the same way. As much flack as they take, it's still one of the most popular sports in our country. So I think baseball has to recognize that first. And then I think they have to do a better job of really creating the type of messaging for Black youth. There's got to be more players that are visible to our Black youth. And I don't know that there's enough of that. I remember growing up in the 80s and 90s and seeing Ozzie Smith and Ken Griffey Jr. and Barry Bonds. There was just a number of guys that I could relate to and see myself in, aside from my dad. So, I mean, it starts there. I think they got to do a better job. They got to get more creative. It can't be the same old thing because times have changed. Baseball cards ain't what they used to be, right? So And that's unfortunate. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is what it is. So baseball's got to kind of make an adjustment, I think.
Great insight, and I think the one thing that was powerful when you said look at the trend, right? Said the 70s, you have the Red Machine, the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, I don't want to disrespect anyone, but we saw that, right? And then even in the early 90s, you know, I'm from Chicago. I grew up watching Ray Durham, Mike Cameron, Albert Bell, Frank Thomas. You know, and seeing is believing.
Yeah, no, it is. And listen, I had an opportunity to play with, I think in Milwaukee, I think we had there's 7 of us on one team, you know, and that was like, you know, the running joke. Like, hey, be cool. We don't want to lose that, but that's the reality of it. And I cherish that time that I got to spend. I mean, Mike Cameron was a teammate of mine. I learned a lot from just being his backup, you know, and until I got a chance to start on my own. But absolutely, you mentioned that 7.7%. I know there's a lot fewer, but the ones that are out there, the Tim Andersons of the world, the Amir Garretts of the world, like we should pushing those guys to the forefront. Don't let me forget Mookie Betts and some of the best players in the league. Like we should be pushing all of these guys to the forefront. If it truly is something Major League Baseball is serious about, I would start there.
Absolutely. And before I get to my next question, I have a running joke with a couple coaches that, you know, we coach youth baseball. I said, a lot of the world doesn't even know Tim Anderson won the batting championship last year. Like I'll drive around Chicago, and it's no knock to anybody in Chicago. Please don't take this the wrong way, but it's one billboard in the 25-mile radius of Tim Anderson winning the batting champ. You know how hard that is in baseball?
Part of that issue is we have gotten to this place where we kind of poo-poo average now. It's not looked at with the same regard that it used to be. And so a guy like Tim Anderson doesn't get the credit for being the batting champion like he should. I mean, at the end of the day, the objective is to hit the ball, put it in play, and not make it out. And he was one of the best at that last year. And he misses out on that cred because, as I said, average isn't looked at as something of importance like it used to be. And that's unfortunate.
And I know I could go on and on about that, but I gotta ask this next question, because this was one of the questions that a couple of my players, you know, parents, they want to ask you. So what advice would you give for a top high school prospect? Because you didn't sign out of high school, right? What is some advice you can give a top prospect to figure out to enter the draft after high school or to actually go to college? You good?
You kind of cut out. You're asking me what advice I would give to a top prospect going in high school or trying to go to college?
Yes.
Know where you stand in terms of, well, first let's back up. You have to figure out what's important to you. Is having a chance to get a degree of high importance, or is it something that you think you could get back to after you get started? You got to be honest with yourself too, because a lot of people think, okay, I'm assigned out of high school, I'll get back to school when I can. I'm telling you, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder than it seems. You really have to be honest with yourself. But listen, everybody's circumstance is different. You know, family plays a big part into that. You know, what living conditions are like, that plays into it. So it's not a one size fits all type thing, but I would say educate yourself in terms of where you fall in the draft. Is that where you see yourself, where you think you should be getting drafted? And if you're honest with yourself and you feel like it's not of fair value, you have that leverage with your college scholarship that you may have, you know, waiting for you. So you got to weigh all those different options. It's not a one size fits all. For me personally, I was offended that I got drafted in the 33rd round. I was offended. And although for me, money wasn't something that was of importance, it was, you know, my parents were well off. I felt disrespected by it. So it didn't matter what the offer was going to be because, you know, in my story, I got drafted in the 33rd round, but I was offered third, fourth round money.
Okay.
But for me, it wasn't about that. I wanted the respect of being a high draft pick. And once the 33rd round came, I probably stopped paying attention after the first 10, and it didn't matter to me if I got drafted after that. And for me, it was about proving to everybody that I was much better than the 1,000th pick in the draft. And I was able to do that at San Diego State.
Love it. Love it. Now, in your opinion, I'm kind of put you on the spot right here, right?
All right.
Who's the best player in baseball right now?
Wow. I mean, you got really 1A and 1B.
Okay.
But it's tough not to say Mike Trout isn't the guy in the league right now.
Shout out to Mike T.
He does everything on the field that you would want to do as a ball player. But a close second is Mookie Betts, in my opinion. He plays the game the way I think people envision themselves playing. Because not everybody's going to be able to look like Mike Trout, you know, big, strong dude, basically a free safety playing football, right? Everybody's not going to be able to look like that. Mookie Betts, on the other hand, is you know, it's kind of like the Steph Curry feel, right? People are attracted to him because even though Steph looks small on the court, he's 6'3", 6'4", but to the naked eye, it's like, man, he's smaller than everybody on the court. That gives the normal person hope that, hey, I can possibly do that. Mookie Betts kind of fits that mold in baseball where, you know, he's not the biggest guy in the field, but he can run. He's a 5'2" player at his size of 5'11", and I think that is something we can all relate to. So I'd say Trout, Betts, I mean, right there, 1-2.
Thanks. Man, TG, I know you got a hectic schedule today. Thank you so much for joining me on the recess. Hey, everybody that's watching now, make sure you go to my YouTube channel. You can find it in the link tree in my bio. Click it. You're going to see this episode and many, many other episodes of the recess. TG, can you drop your Instagram name for people so they can follow you and everything? And make sure you guys, as he's dropping it, make sure you follow Coach E, OF Guru. You know, we're doing big things in Chicago for urban baseball. And also make sure, like I said, click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find it in the link tree in my bio. You know, TG, I can't thank you enough for this. We definitely got to do a part 2 after the season. We definitely
absolutely. Coach, keep up the good work, man. We need folks pushing so we can move that 7.7%.
Got to move
up. We got to move it up a little bit. You can catch me on IG at Tony_Gwynn Jr. You can also catch me on Twitter at Tony Gwynn Jr. So.
Absolutely.
Let's make sure we can connect for this part 2, though.
Hey, part 2, I might have to come to San Diego. I'm gonna ask my wife to have permission to fly out for my great old family. We're doing live from your basement, baby.
You let me know.
All right, TG. Thank you, my brother. Salute.
No problem.
All
Take
right.
care.